The American presidency is an extraordinarily weak institution in domestic affairs. Presidents may say they created jobs or be charged with losing jobs or having crafted, but the fact is that the president is one institution sandwiched between the Supreme Court, which decided to reinvent American elections, and between a Congress divided by a House elected every 2 years, hence constantly running for office, and a Senate elected every 6 years, almost indifferent to the prospect of running for office, with rules so complex and arcane that it takes at least 3 terms to begin to master them. He does not control the economy in any vague sense of the term. He shares that with the Fed, which is quite independent and quite different, and a vast civil society, a private sector that overwhelms his decision-making, all of which was intended by the founders. The founders did not want a strong president. It wanted a president who could get things done only when there was, if not an overwhelming consensus, then certainly a general consensus. And we have to remember that Barack Obama won his presidency with over 47% of the people voting against him. There was this idea that there was a gigantic groundswell in the Republic for Barack Obama, that he had swept everybody away. But in fact, his victory was about 1 point greater than Bush's was in 2004. He won handily, but he did not win overwhelmingly. And yet he was so skillful a politician, and his supporters so avid, that they made a close election appear like an overwhelming one. He now pays the price for this. The expectations were not merely that he would change things, but somehow that he had been endowed with powers that no other president had. He wasn't. And what he's experiencing now is about what you would expect. He will recover. Tales of his death are truly premature. The one place that the president does have institutional power is in foreign policy. Part of it comes from the Constitution and the powers given to him as commander-in-chief. And part of it comes from tradition, where tradition and law have kind of combined to make him the foreign policy czar, if you will. As weak as the president is domestically, that's how strong he is internationally. And so we would expect that, unlike his domestic politics, mired in the complexities of the institutions that our founders left us, his foreign policy would be bold, decisive, and so on. What is most striking 1 year in is that his foreign policy is, to a very great extent, indistinguishable from his predecessors. This is not surprising, because, in fact, the hand that a president plays is always the hand of his predecessors. People say, well, he's having these problems because George Bush. Well, George Bush had his problems because 9/11 happened, and 9/11 happened because Bill Clinton followed a policy toward al-Qaeda, and Bill Clinton followed his policy toward al-Qaeda because George Bush Sr. followed his policies toward Iraq, and so on in the infinite braid that our founders wanted to see.